Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a historic day of chess. It's currently January 17th, 2023. Maybe this video was interesting to you because of the thumbnail or the title. Two very incredible things are going to happen in today's video. It's going to be a recap of round 4 of the ongoing Tata Steel Chess Tournament, which is an elite chess tournament that happens at the beginning of every chess year or calendar year in January in the Netherlands. In this video, you're going to witness a historic defeat, and you are going to also witness a historic victory. Not of the same game. Timestamps are on the video player if you want to jump around, but please don't. All these games are great. There's only 4. And listen, one skill that I have been given by the powers that be is to keep your attention on this dumb little 8x8 square with all the pieces. So here we go. One of the games from today, this is the appetizer game, okay? This is like when you go to a very fancy restaurant and they serve you like a little stupid little, free dish or whatever. They all do that. So this game is not stupid, but it's kind of our appetizer game. It's a game between a gentleman who is in competition for longest name in the tournament, Nodirbek Abdusatorov and Parham Maksudlu from Uzbekistan and Iran, respectively. Now, knight f3, knight c6. We have a Spanish, an Uzbek man, and an Iranian man go to Spain. Castles, bishop e7. This is known as a Spanish. It's one of 37,000 different variations. Nodirbek plays knight f1, h3, and knight g3. So white has completed the development toward this side of the board, and white will, maybe potentially go over here, maybe attack in the center. Black attacks the center, white attacks the center. Everybody clashes in the middle of the board, but the black position is a little bit loose. This knight has nobody guarding it. That rook is on the same diagonal. We have takes, we have takes, we have takes, and Nodirbek plays bishop g5. Now, in positions where you have a lead in development, you are sometimes able to sacrifice a little bit of material, and that is why bishop to b3 kind of shows what's happening. Like, Nodirbek is just refusing to take this pawn. Now, if black takes on c3, white takes this, that removes the defender of that, and then white takes on f6. You saw that. Be honest. So, h6, take, now take, now take, now take, now take, now take, and then we have take and take. Okay, back up for a moment. So, we have bishop takes bishop, rook takes bishop, knight takes knight, bishop takes knight, rook takes rook, pawn takes, and this bishop is just straight up under attack. If you take this, it's a trade. We don't like that. You could take this, it's free, but then I go here and I trade queens and I bulldoze in with my bishop. So queen e2 by Nodirbek is a fascinating move. Essentially, he gives up the bishop, wins a pawn, and takes the knight. But we still have takes and takes. Okay, deep breath. Queens, rooks, knight for bishop, 5 pawns each. Why is white better? Well, material is equal, which is one of the components of calculating who has a better position. Whose king is safer? White's king is safer. It's not even close, okay? White's king is essentially doing the equivalent of sipping a pina colada somewhere on a beach, and the king on h7 is, desperately trying to patch its roof up from the recent storm. The pawn structure and the piece quality, not comparable. This queen is an absolute monster. It targets 5 different pieces. This queen literally sees nothing. Chess.com won't even let me draw the arrow. b4, rook e1 takes. Rook e6. It's been 30 moves and black still hasn't moved this rook. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Queen d1, take, take, queen back to d6. Black moves the rook on the 30th move of the game. And what's really heartbreaking about this position for Parham Maksudlu is that he's pinning the rook to the king, and it looks like he's going to win it, but now white plays f4, and this is just absolutely devastating because if black goes here, he closes the pin. He would be closing his own pin, and white would go here, take the rook, and it would be checked. So we have king f8, and we get the following endgame. And Nodirbek just has a pleasant advantage here, because again, his king is safer, and black's pawns are on 3 islands. White's got very, very decent structure, and he's going to try to ask a couple of questions of the black position. Namely, black's king is very weak, and his pawns are weak as well. Black could trust his ability to trade the queens and play a rook endgame down a pawn, like this, but this is very tough to do. White will go for this, and it's very tough as a human to trade into an endgame where you will be down pawns. So in trying to not be down any pawns, again, black's king is proving to be a problem. Again, white's king is in the equivalent of a very, 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 very nice vacation home purchased during, the bottom of the real estate market. All right, so really, I mean, the offer was under the selling price, even got a good interest rate, locked it in for several years. I'm just saying. I mean, white's beach house is looking really, really nice. All right. And white got, like, you know, a nice little deal on Black Friday sales and so on for the furniture. Really, really good stuff. Black's king, I don't know what the heck's going on there. Foreclosure. Queen f8, rook e7. Yeah, I mean, this king is just not happy. Just not happy. Rook f4, rook d4. And it takes a while. It takes some 50, 60 moves. But finally, the attack has, like, broken through. There's going to be just simple... I mean, this king is just being beaten up, really. And Nodirbek wins a pawn. The king, really... I mean, the king has been running. Look at the king. King's been getting so much exercise. I think more than half of the moves in this game by Black were made by the king. He loses 2 pawns. Now his king is bad, and he's down material. And the game actually literally ends by checkmate. Like... Someone's gonna count. This game, Black played 63 moves. I'm not gonna count because we have a recap to get into. One of you really should count, okay? This was a fun game, so that was probably historic. That was probably the most king moves ever made in a game. This next game is like the beginning of the main course, and then the last 2 games between Dingleren and Praggnanandhaa and Anish Giri and Magnus Carlsen, you gotta stick around for those games. Today I moved Magnus to the end because I wanted to increase the watch time of my videos. I didn't want you to just see Magnus's game and leave. You know, I sometimes do these things. Sometimes I put Magnus in the beginning, sometimes I put him at the end. I'm experimenting. I'm like a chemist in the lab, minus the lab exploding. Also minus, you know, I'm not like Breaking Bad style chemist. E4, C5. This game, we have Thomas Beerdsen back again. He's providing us very high quality entertainment with his games. And Luis Paulo Supi is one of the best grandmasters from Brazil. And he frequently beats me up. Not physically, but when we play Blitz. So we have an Alpine Sicilian in this game and a massive sideline, which is the move b6. I have never seen this move in my life, and I've certainly never seen this move in my life, I have to tell you. And then Luis Paulo Supi plays h5, and then he plays knight to a3, and then he plays h6. I mean, what the heck is this? Really, what are we looking at? Children are watching, gentlemen. Children, okay? h4, h5, h6... is trying to break up the dark squares, and I guess the knight is trying to arrive on d6. So b5. We have bishop d2, bishop b7, rook c1, and it's very clear that, you know, Supi is instigating over there on all the sides of the board. Knight c2, and now f6. I mean, these dudes are really breaking chess principles out here. Beerdsen's pawns are gonna just come under fire, and I guess he's going to go this way with his king, which is insane because white has a rook on the c-file. I mean, I don't know. I would not play chess like this, but good thing I'm sitting here and they're the ones that are making the moves. Bishop d3, take, and that pawn on h6 is still there, but not anymore. Now, probably Beerdsen was like, well, he's gonna take, right? And then, you know, maybe I'll take. And then, you know, he's gonna take, but his rook's not gonna, you know, it doesn't really threaten anything. I have queen f5 check. At the very least, I can maybe trade queens with the guy. He's not gonna be able to attack me. But Supi goes here, and he basically just says, look, man, you got dumb h-pawns now. Like, those h-pawns, I'm never going to take them. I'm just going to leave the position like that. Now, Black plays knight c to e7. White increases the pressure with his knight, and now the rook is open, so the Black king just can't go anywhere. Knight h2, with the idea to play queen h5 and knight g4. All right, queen h5 and knight g4. Black plays knight f4. Knight g4. This bishop can be taken for absolutely free, but then I would go here, and there are 2 hanging pieces in the black position. 3. Here, white takes the knight. It's the best move because now there's a fork and you're guaranteed more material. Knight d5, knight e4, knight f4, queen f3 attacking the knight. Now black plays bishop check. Nothing in this game makes sense. Now white slides out of the way. The knight goes back. Okay, deep breath. White is a pawn down, 5. Black has 6 pawns. You're not really going to tell me any of these pawns are of a high quality. Now, material is probably better for black. It's +1, but it's hardly +1. King safety? Yeah, again, one guy's king can come under fire very quickly. Not exactly vacation house for the king on f1, but, you know, gated community maybe, all right, in a nice neighborhood. Knight f6. If you take this knight, make no mistake, I will not be taking back. I will be taking the rook. And then I will be taking the knight with check. And if you take that, I will also take this rook. Okay, now you're down 2 rooks. Congratulations, stupid. So, rook f8. This knight comes to g4. All right, now we trade rooks, and now we do take our pawn back because we are going to get interest. However, the engine hated it. Engine completely hated this. After rook c8, it wanted Supi to, in this position, not take on h6. and wanted him to prepare king g2 because apparently now black has counterplay with queen d4. So Beerdsen has saved his bad position, and now he's got some very, very severe counterplay coming. Now, the computer here wants black to just take a pawn. Just take a pawn, give white, you know, a thumbs up and say, come and checkmate me. All right, and then here the computer claims that white has to trade queens, which seems nuts. Yeah, Beerdsen doesn't do that. And all of a sudden, Beerdsen, he does it this way. Supi has a plus a million advantage here. I mean, he is just crushing. He is moments away from winning. Everything is under fire. Rook h7, okay? Black plays queen back to d4, rook h7. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this, right? King goes out to h3. Now, I think right here was maybe like the biggest advantage of the game. I think Supi, instead of king g2, needed to play pawn takes d6. And that's very tough to see because essentially queen e6 is the idea. So for instance, if rook f6, knight f6, there is queen c1 check, king to g2, and it doesn't really matter what I take because your next move is queen e6. If this, queen e6, and then I take back. So e takes d6 straight away was just winning. Supi did it this way, but now black is able to defend his position. And the last moment I think Supi had was maybe he could have played knight e3, sacrificing the knight on f6, and then playing knight to d5. Sacrificing another knight to play rook c7 and then win the queen. And then he would have tried to win this endgame. I'm not sure this is winning, but it's winnable for sure because white has the extra queen. Instead, he goes here, and to end this game, he offers a draw after he plays knight f6. Black accepts the draw in a minus 1.8 position. Black basically had to make a move right here, and he decided that it was too risky to make a move, and he agreed. Apparently, black just plays a5. Black is winning. g4, a4. g5, a3. g6, a2. Black is winning. Like, black queens first, and it's crazy. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but it's, yeah, completely insane game. So they make a draw. I mean, it's easily the most exciting draw I've ever seen. A draw is agreed before we even get anything. And now, chess history. 2 games, back-to-back. Our game between Dingliren and Praggnanandhaa, who definitely has the title for the longest name in this tournament. Praggnanandhaa is 13 letters. Ramesh Babu is 10, 23 letters. I mean, I don't think anybody comes close. I mean, Dingliren and Anish Giri are tied for the shortest names, I think. We have e4, Pragg plays e5. We have an Italian. All right. Knight f6, normal stuff. Now, you're going to get a position that kind of resembles the Spanish one, but not exactly. Pragg trades bishops. Ding trades bishops. Guys who just absolutely despise bishops. By taking over here, 2 things are going to happen. The f-file might become useful, and also they will attack the center. Black plays a5, shutting down white's expansion with b4. Ding goes here, and black, right? King h8, queen b5, and now no queens. Rooks and knights, and that's it. And you might look at this position and go, Levy, what on earth are we looking at? I'm bored. Me too. I'm also bored. But this game is historic, okay? And if you haven't clicked off the video yet, well, you're about to find out why. So Ding begins trying to win. Knight f3, knight f3. Now it's only 2 rooks and a knight. Knight f6. Knight back to d2. Rook to f1. Rook e8. Rook f3. And Ding is going for g4. And Pragg strikes back. Pragg's like, I don't care. d5, let's go. d5, very tense moment in the center of the board here. A move like king d3 really is not going to cut it, although it's an interesting move. Black can explode the center even more. I mean, it's just head-spinning complications here. So rook to f1. Take, and take. And Ding is down a pawn. But Ding wins the pawn back. Pragg plays e5. Wait a minute. What is going on here? What is going on here? e5. So if you take after rook e5, all of these things are a target. Everything. And white is just losing. Because everything is loose. So he plays rook f5. We have this. And now we have a trade, and he gets the pawn back. Now, why is black better? Material is equal. King safety doesn't really matter because it's an endgame. I mean, it does, but nobody's going to get checkmated. Now, you talk about the piece quality. Well, black's got two very coordinated pieces, and you could argue it's about the same, but then it starts looking at the pawns. Look at white's pawns and black's pawns. Black has 2 and 3. 2 and 3, most of which are at home and solid. White has a massive pawn island in the center of the board. White is also extremely overextended. I mean, being advanced this far in the endgame is not good, and white's pawns just don't really work together well at all. So all of a sudden, Pragg is better against the number 2 ranked chess player in the world, that is Ding Liren. Rook e6, and Pragg starts trying to win. The problem with a guy like Ding, okay, and both guys make move 40, so we have our next added time. The problem with a guy like Ding Liren is that to beat a 2800, you need to beat him about 6 times in the same game. You gotta out-prepare him, you gotta outmaneuver him in the middle game, you gotta give up a little bit of your advantage because you're playing accurately, then you gotta take the advantage back, then you gotta convert the advantage, and then blah, 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 blah. So we have h4, king h5. So he walks up with the king, and I told you, white's pawns are not good. Ding's pawns are not good in this position. Black has very good pressure. Rook e1. All right, rook h1, rook h4. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Ding needs to chuck the pawns and win one back, but Pragg's just pawn up. Here's the problem. It's an outside pass pawn. It's the worst kind of pawn to defend if you're Ding Liren. Pawn's on the outskirts of the board, and Pragg he just starts pushing it. Check here, check here. He takes on c7, he takes on e3. Oh my goodness, Pragg's h-pawn is a real problem. Notice how Ding's pawns have not been able to move. If you literally look at Ding Liren's pawns, where did we enter the endgame? And I asked you to, here, right? Look at these pawns and count the amount of times they were able to move. Look at white's pawns. This is what I mean by not mobile pawn structure. Once the h-pawn moved, and now both pawns died, and now the e-pawn is dead as well. And the other 2 pawns literally have no legal moves. Pawn quality is so important as you make the transition between middle and endgame. Are you paying attention? Knight g6, rook d4, and it takes him about 6 hours of play. But that h-pawn starts moving, it moves quickly, it moves aggressively, and he gets the white king to have to advance beyond the pawns. He plays king f3, rook d4, and rook b4, and the pawns are falling, the h-pawn survives, and Ding Liren resigns after 73 moves of play, as black has secured all of his pawns with an absolutely bulletproof rook. The pawns will fall, and rather than playing on and ultimately losing, Ding simply calls it a day right here because black will capture the remaining 2 pawns, which literally never had a chance, and he will win. Folks, this is a historic win for Praggnanandhaa. He was the youngest player to defeat Magnus Carlsen in a chess game ever. That happened last year. But that game was in online rapid play, 15-minute. I think Praggnanandhaa is officially the youngest ever player to beat a 2800 in a classical game of chess. Somebody needs to verify that. I don't know how young Magnus Carlsen was when he was beating 2800s. It might be Magnus, because Magnus probably also was becoming the GOAT when he was 17, 18. But Pragg is a monster. India, you should be proud. You have gems over there in your nation. I mean, Praggnanandhaa is a beast. You start talking about our generic, I see Pragg shows up and beats a 2800. I mean, seriously, this is incredible, okay? And that takes me to my final game of the day. Anish Giri, Magnus Carlsen. D4, knight f6, and Magnus plays a Queen's Indian. It's the second time we've seen this in this event. Folks, Alpha Zero and Stockfish killed this opening. Killed it. I mean, the Queen's Indian cannot be played at top level. If you put this position in the database in the last 5 years, 2017 to 2023, forgot it's 2023, the move that's played here about probably 90% of the time at top level is simply d5. Sometimes it's bishop b4. And you know, Benoni, but like, no. But the Queen's Indian for Magnus, g3, bishop a6 attacks the pawn, and queen c2. Queen c2 is an interesting move. By far the most popular choice here is to play knight bd2 or b3. Queen c2 is definitely a move. In fact, I've actually played queen c2 before, myself. And it's a very interesting move. Now the bishop goes back and basically says, well, you're dumb, I took your queen off your pawn. Now we have bishop g2 and c5. c5 is a very instigating type of move. Magnus looking for imbalance. And d5 is just a clean pawn sacrifice. Like a full loss of a pawn. The idea is that after takes, white just castles, and this bishop really x-rays the black position. It's very tough for black to move. Bishop e7, rook d1, and the craziest thing when I saw this, by the way, you cannot take this because of knight b4. When I saw this position, I cracked up because this is in my prep. When I used to play d4 main lines over the board, I would play this position, and I knew this move, queen f5. This is one of the moves that I knew, which is very funny. I actually have a game in the database where I think I made a draw against Grandmaster Leonid Yudasian in a classical game. Shout out to Leonid. Queen f5 is the move that I played, and I had some pressure. Basically, white is a pawn down, but black's behind in development, and white has very active pieces. And in that game, my opponent played the move g6. And then I went here, and then he castled, and then, you know, you can play e5, knight h5, and black goes here often, and life is okay. But Magnus played d6, which, according to the computer, is not the best move. Now, I imagine his computer is stronger, his analysis is deeper and more recent, but I remember that d6 is not great because of e5 right away. And if you take the pawn, you lose your queen, so black tries to attack the queen, with the queen defended by that knight, and then this and this. Okay, so Magnus is voluntarily entering this variation. Clearly he knows something that the engine doesn't, but Anish is very well prepared. He plays rook e1 check, and now black actually has to move the king. And then he plays knight c3. Even if you don't remember these moves off the top of your head, it's kind of easy to play them. So now black has multiple options. Black can play rook to e8, try to trade the rooks. When you have rooks like this, you almost never want to be the guy capturing because you only benefit your opponent. You would much rather recapture your rook with a rook, which is why something like this by white is a good idea. But that doesn't happen. Black has that option, but black goes knight b4. And now, you know, seeing that this is coming, Anish plays a very aggressive move here, knight e5. And what Anish could have also done is play something like rook b1 and allowed this, but Anish plays knight e5. Now, a lot of things stare at each other. This sees this, they see each other, that sees that, these bishops see each other, and knight c2 is still a fork. The most pressing course of action here is knight e5 for black. Like, black has to consider this move, and that is what Magnus played in the game. Now bishop takes b7, and rook to d8. And Anish simply defended the pawn on d6. Knight c4, attacked the pawn on d6, forcing the pawn on d6 to go forward, and now black could consider bringing the king, but instead he goes knight c2, the rook moves, and now a moment. So Magnus has multiple options, but what he chooses to do is to finish the journey with the knight to the center of the board. Okay? Anish in this position plays the move b4, a very aggressive move. Targeting this, looking to open up the file. Black's under pressure. Magnus is taking some risks to win here. Magnus now needs to play knight e5. Okay? Instead of that, Magnus finishes his plan of cutting off this rook and takes the pawn. Now notice the eval bar. Oh my god. Magnus Carlsen has just made a huge mistake. He misses that Anish does not need to take here. Okay? Obviously. I don't exactly know, you know, maybe he thought bishop, I don't know what Magnus thought, to be honest. Of course, he did not miss bc5, rook b7. Maybe, I don't exactly know what, like, maybe he thought bishop a6. But basically, just bishop d5. And the point is that the knight is under attack. When the knight moves, which it has to, I will get my bishop to a3. So that's it. Like, I mean, you know, just a one-move retreating move that targets the knight. So I don't exactly know what was overlooked. Like, maybe Magnus thought he was going to go here, and then here he had this move or something. But I don't know. Maybe there's something else. Like, I don't know. Maybe he talked about it afterward. I haven't had a chance to look. But essentially, after bishop d5, take, bishop a3, white is completely winning. White is still a pawn down, but he's got all the activity. And Anish Giri gets his pawn back. And in this position after knight e6, I think there was a moment Magnus could have played bishop c3 and then knight f5. There was some moment here he could have almost untangled. I think like right after Anish got this better position, he had a slightly more killer way of getting this converted, like rook e1 first, and then if knight e6, you play knight a4. This was the idea. So paralyzing Magnus completely before trying to take like this and like this. But still, I mean, Magnus would not go out without a fight. And Magnus didn't play that. He tried to sacrifice his a-pawn and play rook c8, but knight a4, and the black pieces are simply tangled together. Like, somehow, black is just a step behind at all times. Check, king f6, and knight c5. And the coordination is cut among the entire army. Knight c5, rook c4, you cannot move the knight because the rook behind, and bishop a5. And Magnus, in this position, resigned. Resigned. Why? Why did he resign? Why didn't he just move his rook to safety? He moved his rook to safety because bishop b6. That's it. Like, but you think bishop d6 or something, I'll just come back. And that's it. I mean, it's completely great. Like, the white pieces, black fell behind by a move and a half the whole game. There was a brief moment black could have, like, maybe gotten close to consolidation, but just bishop b6 and that's it. This is Anish Giri's first win over Magnus Carlsen in a long game in 12 years. The only other time Anish beat Magnus was in the same exact tournament, Vikonsé, in the Netherlands in 2011. 12 years! So, a massive win for Anish. Commiserations to Magnus. I mean, this is an incredible result for Anish. Anish now first place. 3 out of 4, tied with Nodirbek. He has a win over Gukesh, a win over Magnus. He's now number 6 in the world. And he's looking like an early tournament favorite. He's going to go into the rest day feeling pretty damn good. So, looking for Magnus to bounce back. Big win for Anish. Big win for Nodirbek as well. These guys are number 1 right now. And a day of history. I'll see you all in the next video. Get out of here.